Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Stay on Your Bike podcast. Hope you enjoyed last week's episode. And this week, I've got a really cool guest on. Excited to chat to him about lots of different stuff to do with biking. Um, Super talented bike rider, as well as probably one of the busiest guys in the industry at the moment. Does all kinds of stuff. Multi-talented fella. Um, Welcome to the podcast, Josh Loose Dog Lewis. How are you doing, fella?
Good, thanks. Cheers for having me. Thanks for your kind words, mate.
It's all right. It's all true. It's all true. I'm always, I don't see you that often, but I always follow what you're up to on the Instagram and stuff. And yeah, I think for all the mountain bikers out there, a lot of people that we get on the podcast are like ex-racers and stuff, but which you are as well. But all the stuff you do on the bike and stuff is what it's all about for me as well as racing. So it's always super exciting and cool to see what you're up to.
Really, cheers, man. Yeah, it's good fun that biking stuff, isn't it? It's give us a good life, and yeah, I love it to bits. It's always a nice little realization that this is a job and work hard to keep that going. So yeah, combine that with some creativity, and it's can't stop. Addicted.
Well, you seem like you've got the balance right. Obviously times have changed since I was, first starting out with mountain biking. It was just all about riding and then if you were, lucky enough, you got some pictures in the magazines and stuff like that. But nowadays it's all changed, and like you say, you've got to, if you want to be in the media and stuff, unless you're just, winning events left, right, and centre, you've got to create your own content to keep it, keep it good and interesting for people. Which, you must be one of the best guys in the world at that. So, congrats on all
No,
that.
cheers, man. Yeah, it's mad. Like I often, I've been speaking about this recently. Like you say, you'd get photography, you'd get like outlets that say dirt or stuff like that. They'd be putting the work in to come visit you, wouldn't they? And when I got into riding, like when I was like 13, I'm 31 now. It was following them news, if you like, websites where they'd be sending people out like Billy from Dirt or whatever, and they'd go and make day in the life of all that stuff. And then obviously before that was print, but you'd get them early web videos, and it seemed like a lot of websites and stuff would put that work in to showcase riders' backgrounds, etc., what they're up to. But now it's definitely shifted, hasn't it? So it's like everyone's got to tell their own story, and if you don't do that, you sort of, well, I don't know. It's proper changed.
Yeah,
So yeah.
I don't know what, the answer to it is, but I feel like, some stuff's lost with those outlets. I guess like with, big platforms like Pink Bike and stuff, you can, create a video and send it into them. But
Mm,
like you say, they'll cover, new bike launches and races, and there's obviously coverage of the World Cup still, and the big new events like, Hardline and all that stuff. But like you say, it's kind of lost, that some of those avenues are not chasing all the riders like yourself, and riders all around the world that are doing super cool, interesting stuff that people want to see. Um, that yeah, which would have been covered in Dirt and MBUK back in the day. Uh,
yeah. There's
so.
so much as well, isn't there? That's so like every day there's new videos, there's new. It's definitely it's a different dynamic these days, and you have to put your own. You have to be media savvy to be a rider these days. You have to be, willing to put that self promotion in and put that time into it. And a lot of people just want to ride and do the thing. So it's tricky now to get yourself out there. But also, fun. It's like it's more of a package now. It's like you have to really plan in and yeah. Like when I'm doing a video project now, I'm not just planning the video project. I'm planning the release. The videos that go out to the sponsors, the photos. That it's it's flipping flat out. I've
Yeah.
got like a mountain of hard drives that I'm looking at now. I've been going through. I'm going to make a book, like a 10-year 50 to 1 anniversary book, and I've been delving into the hard drive. I've got them all like organized into years, but just like tens of thousands of pictures and stuff like that. It's like,
Full-time gig.
yeah, yeah, it is, but I love it. I
Good.
often remind myself, and you're busy doing all that stuff, and you're like, but it's like better to be busy than like feeling a bit too busy or whatever. It's at least you've got stuff to fill your days up rather than like just
Yeah.
thinking
Trying to
not
think.
to do.
So, basically, how much, percentage wise, like, what, because obviously on your Instagram and stuff like that and the videos you do, it looks to the outside world that you just flat out riding your bike all the time, and the amount of time you need to spend on your bike to be able to ride and do the stuff that you do is huge. Um, but what percentage wise is the time sort of spent riding your bike, and then everything else that goes into the videos and 50 to 1 and everything else you're doing?
Well, lately I've been riding every day.
That's
Been
good.
riding loads. I definitely had a patch in winter where I was like, I think we all get that patch though, where you've got to force yourself to get out, and it's like, used to just be out all the time, and
Yeah.
but as soon as this nice weather's been out, I've been out every day, and it's like definitely reflected in my well-being and all that. Um, just feeling good. But yeah, like you say, you've got to stay on top of your, just keep your skill set sharp, especially when you're doing like trick-based stuff and jump stuff. If you have a little bit of time off, it's like you have to not relearn stuff, but just re sort of spark up them bits in your brain where it's self-belief, I guess, and all that stuff. But then going back to what you said about the percentage, the like I've started making a film. Well, it's been about a month now. I've had like 10 filming days in like 28 days. So it's almost like that's a lot. Like I've almost filmed a full section in like a month, which is to say it's only just April's like really done. Obviously, it's weather that's pushed us that way. But I've been you film in the day, probably get like 4 or 5 because we're doing sections. So if you go out and get like 4 or 5 clips for your section in a day, it's good going.
Yeah.
So yeah, usually just get home, get the clips onto the hard drives, back them up, and I've not really touched editing yet. I'm just like getting them all ready in the folders and chronologically ordered, and so then when I come to editing, it's like I'll just scan through all them and get them all into a timeline. And yeah, it's been it's a refined process for sure. Definitely used to be a lot messier with it all, and
Got good at it now.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just all them little bits help in the final editing bit where you just everything's dated and you know um just through learning through the tribulations, I guess.
Did you teach yourself all the editing and the filming and stuff, or obviously a lot of guys that have on the race scene that go and do edits for teams and stuff like that. I think some of them guys have been to college and done it, and come into it. They weren't necessarily like you know super top high end riders like yourself, but some of them are and some of them aren't. So, how did you get all those skills?
Yeah, self-taught, and then just asking people like in early days, like Joe Bowman, Duncan Philpott, them guys is like, and they like Joe's self-taught as well. He's not,
Yeah.
so it's just literally. I think going to college and stuff like that, you learn from the start, and you learn all the. There's definitely stuff I missed out on just from getting into it
Hmm.
through passion, and then learning like the theory and theory, just the technical side, as I've got further down the line. But I've always made videos, even when I was like 12, 13, 14 at school. Used to like edit videos on my phone
Right.
on like remember Sony Ericsson Walkman phones, and you get like a little video editor on them. And we used to make like postcode videos. So
Right.
like other schools and that, I'd make like it'd often be like quite naughty videos or like just. But
Yeah.
I'd always put biking in ours and like
Right.
stuff like that and edit stuff up, and it's always been a passion of mine. And then when I when I started racing, like through SPS with Steve, I'd be making videos there, and it's just always been something I've enjoyed doing. So I think if you enjoy doing it, something you just keep doing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think I've always just wanted to progress the output, whether that's quality or the content,
Uh-huh.
which has put me where I am now. I've got like massive weaponry,
Nice.
cameras, and um, yeah, just loved it. And like definitely these days on YouTube and stuff like that, you can just learn directly the exact thing you want to learn. There's so many. I'm not dissing like the education setup, but like if
Oh,
you're passionate about something, you can go straight to learning the exact thing you want to learn through YouTube, where someone's probably going to give you a really good step-by-step process, as
yeah.
opposed to turning up to college and doing,
Yeah.
full year a course to just learn like one little bit that's relevant to what you want to do. I've had friends, like, I'm not talking from my own experience, I'm talking through friends' experience, where they've, like my mate Max, he dropped out of uni because he was like, I'm just not learning what I want to be, what I want to be learning. And then you come out and do stuff you want to do, and you learn, it's like your progression curves like this because you're just focusing on the one thing that you want to do. So
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely. It's school and college and stuff, as the world changes, it's not always relevant, is it? You kind of waste so much time at school and college, only learning the stuff that you're interested in, and you're messing about in class. Whereas, like you say, if you want to learn something yourself these days, you can go on YouTube and get the skills that you need for what you want to do. Uh,
mm,
but that's another subject uh,
yeah.
into. But so well, let's first of all, you just mentioned at school and then being on the SPS. Give us a little insight on how it all started for you with the biking and stuff.
So I lived. My dad lived opposite Steve, up in Chef, and I knew Steve before I was into riding, which is like a weird dynamic. I think, like, I knew him as Steve over at Road, and then he'd have like people coming to his house,
Is
like
this
I
the
remember.
house he's in now or his old
Yeah,
house?
yeah, same, yeah. So like we'd go and hang out with my dad, and we'd go and hang out, and he'd show me his bikes. I thought, But I remember even knocking on his door one day for a poster with my neighbour when he were on Orange, and I didn't even really know anything about bikes. But I guess that's what probably the moment it sparked off for me, where I like had this poster in my hand, and I'm like, yeah, I've always been into bikes. Don't get me wrong, that weren't like I've always been, but it were more like motorbikes and a bit of BMX and stuff like that. But when I realised that potential, Steve, world champion, was on the doorstep and there's all that amazing riding, I like backdated my my fanatic sort of side, and like watched everything to do with Steve, learned everything, not everything, but as a kid does, you just like Earth 5 was the first Earth. That was when I got into it. That was like because I remember getting that, and I just used to have it on every night before school. I just watch it every night, and just even if I weren't fully watching it, I just go to bed and put it on. And so yeah, that was like the fire was lit at that point. And then Steve eventually helped me out getting some parts. I did a race up Amsteley. That was first year youth.
Yeah.
I think I was like second in my category off at first runs, and I was like,
Oh, that's
I
good
would,
going.
yeah, second or first, something like that. But I remember I thought timing were wrong. Like, no, that's not. I've got wrong time, and then crashed in my second run, and everyone went a bit quicker, and I dropped down results. But that were like a nice little,
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, I can do this. So then,
Yeah.
second year, you've joined, started racing MPSs. Um, First national, but first year at Langolan.
Oh yeah.
You remember that low me steep boy? I remember dropping into the first corner and just ghosting my bike, like don't even know how to ride this, like.
Yeah.
Um, and then yeah, Steve just continued helping me out. Definitely very fortunate introduction into the sport. You know, having Steve there, and definitely a fortunate introduction. Not like many, you know, and I'll always be thankful for that sort of environment. Just having Steve to hang out with, talk to. He'd take me to the races because that was the thing. I never like. I had that, but I never really had like the family support. A lot of other, you see a lot of other riders have where they've got like a mum and dad taking them to the race, or you know, not like push your dad, but you know, often you see like the dad. It's the dad that's into it, and they're like, "You've got to get," you know. Da, da, da. I never had like my dad took me to one race, I think, and my mum took me to one race, like one of the very first ones, and then from there on, it was like me having to jump in for lifts with my mates and or other friends, families helping me out. So Steve, yeah, would lift me to races and yeah, just me. It was mega. Learned loads. As you know, what a boy, what a character, and like he cares about the youngsters and always has like a lesson to teach, and he'll give you a kick up arse if you need one. If you you know, yeah, couldn't have wished for a better sort of start to the sport, and yeah, that love and passion just kept out every day, like just definitely weren't like the most naturally talented at it. Like I had friends who were really good at like dirt jumping and BMX tracks and all that. I guess what I was probably most naturally good at was like riding rocks and like tech. Probably just through riding in Warney.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I mean, what I was gonna say, like, I got into biking later on, mountain biking anyway, and in those early days, Steve was, even though I'm older than Steve, he was, much more experienced than me when I started. He'd been at it for a long time, and again, he was so good to me. Helped me out. I'd stay at his house and go and riding, in Warney and stuff. But what I have to say is that part of the country where you guys are all from, there's quite a big, there's a huge sort of community of bike riders, and everyone's really good, and I think you've got really good terrain and places to learn those skills, haven't you? It was much better than where I grew up, and I think it's lucky for you guys that you've got a lot on your doorstep there.
yeah, it's really good like center. You know, you can you don't really have to drive, but if you wanted to drive around, you've got good riding in all directions, and then just having Sheffield as a centre has so many diverse spots around it that like there's everything you need there, and then like you say, the scene was great. Like they were doing them. This is Sheffield races where we'd like race Jules in like Endcliffe Park on a Tuesday night or whatever, and it was just like it had that sort of cultural
Yeah,
buzz to it, as well as obviously the riding side. You had like these social events, which is obviously what biking's all about, isn't it? You've got like the exercise and all that, but then you can't ride all day, all night. You meet them like-minded people, and then that's what, yeah, it's just that's what's so good about riding. Really, is it's as fun talking about it and reliving that experience. I was doing it at the time.
yeah, definitely. And so, you know, you mentioned you felt your strongest skills were riding the tech and the rocks and stuff, which I can totally get, because first time I went riding there, I'd kind of come from a different background than that. That we didn't have any of that where I lived. I'd never done trials, but um, my background was BMX racing as a kid, and then I did a little bit of motocross racing in my mid 20s. But when I first came and rode at Warney and stuff, and with Steve, and the speed he was going over rocks and roots, it blew me mind. I just didn't understand how you could ride over that stuff so fast. It's a completely different skill set altogether, in it.
Yeah,
Like
especially Stephen Hall. He'd like be pedaling over him, wouldn't he, with his big long legs. He's just like, how's he doing that? But like, what I always what's what always spun me out was like you'd look at these rocks and you'd be like, how am I supposed to ride my bike? It just looks nasty and jagged. But then it seems the quicker you go, the smoother it is, and you just So that, yeah, it just always, yeah, it was never. There's obviously steep parts in morning, but a lot of it's like flat where you've got to work for your speed as well. So you ended up like pumping through this like nasty stuff. So yeah, it's a good place to hone the skills, and just never really. It took me a lot of like when I'd show up to like big jump, especially these days. Now I've done a lot of time. Like I'm still not the most confident at jumps, but I'm definitely, I'm showing up to them backyard battles now and getting stuck into some bigger jump stuff, and that's nice because I used to be not the most confident at big. It'd take a lot to get over some big, like especially the steeper lip stuff. You'd just be like, couldn't really figure it out, like see it working in your head. But once you keep at it, and again, it's just speed and commitment and all that. It all just it works for you. But
No,
def-
I'm actually stupidly enough, I'm going through that exact same thing right now. When back in the day, I was always decent at jumping. I've never
mm,
the best, but I'd come from, I learned to jumps at the BMX track, and I kind of missed the dirt jump era. I used to go to kind of Sheep Hills and stuff when I first got into mountain biking with Steve and that in America, and learnt that. And then, if there's any, jumps at races, I was always, fine with them. But then, especially the past, I don't know, 10, 15 years, I haven't really done too much jumping or ever concentrated on it or anything. And just
mm.
recently, I've been, since my little lads got into riding, I've been to Dovey twice, and it's like so good there, but it's absolutely terrifying for me. It
Yeah,
blows you.
there's some techie jumps. Them ones aren't, there? Especially like some of them are blind and quite steep lips, and then
Yes,
some are short, some are long. You got to learn it, haven't you?
it's a weird thing jumping because in some respects it's much easier than riding through a rock garden flat out, and it's more predictable, and it's
Mm.
the right thing. But it's just that getting over your fear factor of going so fast into a huge takeoff that doesn't feel, you automatically your body's telling you to get back down and land on the ground, whereas you've got to do the opposite. You've got to like fly through the air, and it's so scary at first, but once you do a jump, like a bigger jump, it's so feels so good. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's it. I feel like them like that like fear and that stiffness is what sort of counter it's counterintuitive. But once you get used to it, it's definitely less is more. You free up and you're like, if you're coming in and stiff and you're a bit like scared and you don't know what to, and then you get that like bucky thing. But if you're just like loose and like relaxed,
Yeah.
like that's what I'll tell myself now if I'm trying something like bit on bigger side for the first time. It's like, just be relaxed and like don't like lock up because you just be sailing through air in some weird position. And
And then it's
yeah, it's everything's so well built these days as well. Like you just got to either follow someone or just
yeah.
trust that it works. Like we went to a backyard battle last year, Lucas's one, and there's this massive like freestyle ramp, big left hit, probably one of the bigger jumps I've ever done. And you're watching people hitting, and you're like, that is massive. Like people are so high up, and you're just thinking you can't like imagine. Almost watching it's worse than just being like, right, just go and do it, get it out of the way, and just feel it.
Yeah.
And then I think I followed Louis Ribot and Sergio first through it, and Def had a stiff first first end, and once you like get to grips with it, it's just so relaxed. It's not like doesn't feel as that size when you're doing it. You know what I mean? So it's massive head game. That's
So much game, especially for me. So I guess everybody's personality is different, and um, I always, I think I've always done it a little bit. I've always like doubted my ability more than, some people have got so much confidence in themselves, and
mm,
overcoming that fear and doubt in yourself, even though on the other side of your brain, it's telling you, yeah, I can easily do that. I've done that kind of stuff before. But then the other side saying, oh, but what if this goes wrong? It's that's the
yeah, yeah. just
overcoming.
blocking all that out in it and believing in yourself, like you say, it's a massive thing, and it not even just for jumping either. Like whatever your strengths are and whatever your weaknesses are, your brain has that like thing where I'm saying you as a generalization, but mine, and just talking from my own experience, like even going back to racing, like I'd do race runs where I'm like I'm riding well here, and then doing well, and then rather than just being like focused and in the moment, like keep doing that, you start like thinking, oh no, you're gonna blow it on this next left, or oh you can't keep this up, you know what I mean? And it's like you letting them little like doubts in, and it's a skill in itself, just keeping like straight focused on the job in hand, whatever it is.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Uh, And so, obviously you started off doing the racing. Was that your main focus when you started it? Did you want to be kind of replicate what Steve done
yeah,
racing?
massively, massively. Yeah, got into it going back. Yeah, first year youth when I started, and then juniors where I was like taking it a lot more serious. Like my mate Tom Kelly used to take me to like we'd go up and down UK weekend in weekend out. It'd be like Scottish champs Dunkeld one weekend, then next weekend it'd be like South Wales for a Welsh round. We were doing everything,
Yeah.
and really trying to like hunt them British cycling points. Get up. That was what we were going for, and trying to get like top five in the rankings and stuff like that to get like because you could jump straight to elite, couldn't you, when you moved out of junior?
Yeah.
Um,
Top five was it or top 10 juniors? I can't remember.
I think it was top three went elite, and top. I think I was like fifth, and I went to expert. I missed out on the jump to elite, and then went elite after first year expert. But
Got you.
yeah, just never really like. I always, as going back to my head game, I would always like fluff my runs. Like I'd ride well in practice and feel good, and like be keeping up with anyone that I was riding with and feel good. And then like my race runs, and I'd always like blow it. I'd always crash or just like do stupid, like have signs of like speed or maybe get good speed trap or whatever, and just never really achieve what I thought I could have. And then that's when I found enduro, and I was doing enduros a lot. And
What
that seemed to suit me a lot better. Go on, sorry.
what year was that, Josh, when you sort of transitioned from down
I think it was maybe like 2013.
yeah, quite
Because
early on in time?
yeah, it was like second year elite, I think. Um, and Kotick offered me a ride on their enduro team, so I was riding for like Steve's SPS, like Santa Cruz UK and downhill, and then Kotick
The Enduro.
enduro. So like two team setup, and then loved the enduro, loved the socials. Like we had a good crew doing them. I loved all the trails, and it was a little bit less concentrated, which I think helped my head. It's not just like one run. You got to go and perform on like a 2 minute. It was more like 6 3 minutes or whatever.
Mhm.
So just and Mark Scott, he's always been a close like friend of mine through because he's same year as me in racing. So we always got on with Mark really well, and
Yeah.
he jumped over to enduro and he was loving it. So I was like, yeah, I'll come and do some of them with you. And just started doing well in that. I think got like top five overall in elite in series, and I think I got like a in 30 somewhere at at the first in elite for an EWS. I run in top 30 in that, and then on second day, I'd got like a partially torn ACL and I crashed first. But I surprised myself after day one. I think I like 28th or something.
Brilliant.
And I was like, flipping heck, buzzing. And then day two, I'm just like, I remember like first three corners, like sprinting like a madman and like high side and like pops my knee and like and finished my ACL off. And I'm like, ah.
No
So I
way.
finished that stage. Someone gave me some strong painkillers, and I think next couple stages were like 100th. And then I remember seeing pictures on Roots and Rain riding like.
No,
But
no way.
yeah, ended up muscling that out and getting I was like 36 or something like that for that. So
Brilliant.
that's where I was like, oh, we're doing this. This is this is suiting me.
Yeah.
So then like ran at that, and did started making an effort to do the EWSs, and that's when like bit of income started coming in for me, where I was like um, picking up a few more sponsors, traveling with Santa Cruz and Alan.
Yeah.
Stiff was helping me out with bikes and stuff like that. Fox started sending me. Fox Europe picked me up, and then yeah, Alan was like he'd started up the Santa Cruz Enduro team, and I was like wasn't fully on it, but they were helping me out with like accommodation and stuff like that for the first year. And I think that was like 2015.
Okay.
Um,
And
but then
how did that come about? You know, obviously Alan's a fucking, superstar BMXer and
yeah,
you know and all that. How did he get that kind of role and put an enduro team together? Was that something he was into at the time as well? Because
uh, I can't really. I don't think so. I think it all sort of. He was working at Santa Cruz, and he was like in a marketing role, and yeah, he just got this opportunity to like run up you know, have like some responsibility and like managerial position in like it was like the Juliana one side team and then the Santa Cruz SRAM on the other side. So it was Mark and Yargo who was on that officially, and then they got me on properly the year after that. But it was like the video side. I was doing a lot of the video
Mhm.
even before that official year I was on. I was traveling around filming as well as racing. You know, stopping in practice, getting my camera out and filming, and like that. It all just like fitted exactly how I imagined, you know, it to be. Going to all these new spots with a crew and filming, and all the venues, all the race venues were always really exciting and fresh. From like Latuile were like 10, 12 minute lomas and stuff like that no one had ever even ridden before. And like, whoa, this is.
Yeah.
So then, yeah, we had a good few years on that setup. We had it dialed in. You know, we all like carried our weight and helped set up and loved it. And I think we had a good. You know, we were. You know, every time we'd like you'd see a write up or a video, we'd always, one of us would be in it, or
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
not all. And yeah, it was
It's
really really good time. Thankful for them years as much as any of the others. Like got to see a lot of the world. Um,
yeah.
yeah.
Sometimes it's quite easy to be complacent when you're involved in all that, isn't it? And you're just traveling and you go to a race and then you travel to another race. But it's when you don't do that anymore, it's like you look back and think how lucky you are to do all that because lots of people never get to go to those places. It's there's some insane riding spots around the world, isn't there, that you'd never know
For
about if you'd
sure.
gone to one of those races.
Yeah. Like you say, it's easy to get caught up in that. Like, you know, especially when you want to be racing, there's no time for like. If you're trying to be serious, I mean, you can be too serious, can't you? But I can see I was never that serious, really,
Mhm.
being honest. But I could see how you know, you wanted to roll up to the spot and your eyes were on the prize. You know, yeah, just going for little spins around, or we like. I feel like I've missed out Josh here a bit because he he jumped on that as well, and Josh helped me loads through racing earlier days as well as Steve. And in them early Santa Cruz SRAM days, Josh ended up coming. He'd sort of left he'd done his like World Cup win, and he was feeling like a change, and so he ended up jumping on that sort of program with us, and we'd be like showing up to these new venues and going and pedaling around and maybe filming a few street clips or yeah. But I remember we've like he got me on this Fox trip with Mike Redding, and that was like 2015, and that was like the first little 15 or 16 where I was like, nah, this is actually happening now, because we'd filmed that in like an America trip with Fox, which is a massive, still one of my like highlights of my career. But we went from we went to Jamaica to film this trip, which is again, like I say, how do you get to these spots? It's like you just do mine. Like, what am I doing here? Like with my bike. We went from Jamaica to then the film premiere in San Fran.
Yeah.
From there to New Zealand, and then from there to Australia to do Tasmania EWS, and it's like 2 months on traveling just with your bike, like still. And now I don't travel that much. I look back on that and I'm like flipping out. Like
Yeah.
can't believe that were an experience that I had. So yeah, forever thankful for
Yeah.
all that
Yes.
stuff.
It's so cool. Like, being able to, get to do that from just, riding your bike, which is what we all love to do, but from kids
Mm.
still as adults. Yeah, it's mega. And yeah, I mean, it looked like I sort of started getting into the enduro a bit later than you guys with the race team I was running, and yeah, you guys just all it never seemed to be from the outside anyway. It never seemed to be you guys were stressing over, from my experience in running a race team. I was always you know sort of in the back of my mind stressing about results and getting
Mm.
results that it was a race team. Obviously,
Well, you had Sam as well, didn't you? He was obviously champion, so
well, yeah,
definitely a different dynamic.
even before we had Sam on the program, the main focus from my role was, to try and get as good a results as we could, as well
Mm.
as trying to make a good image for the sponsors and companies that we had and supporting us. But you guys all just seem to be like having a good time and making good videos as well as getting good results as well. Whereas some other programs looking at from the outside, it was just literally about getting results. uh,
Yeah,
but I guess that's in my opinion how Santa Cruz got so successful as a brand was they had the right riders and ambassadors getting the results, but also having a good time at this. Or from the outside, looked like they were all having a great time, which is, I think, so important for selling bikes and product and stuff.
yeah, for sure. It's like um, we're definitely thankful for that because I was never going out and getting like amazing results, but never once did anyone say, "Come on," it was never that. It was always like just if you want to be here and you want it and you're having fun and like show that that's what's radiating and inspiring people to want to ride. At the end of the day, it's all well and good if you're getting a result, but
Yeah.
the true result is if you've had fun in it at the end of the day. And it's
I,
definitely nice to have that. Because I don't know, I remember having this realization where, especially with racing, where like I'd see people I'd be looking at, I'd be thinking, I'd be loving to be sat in 16th or whatever, but like people would be unhappy with that, or like, and it was like this little realization that you never are really happy, are you? Even if you're second, you might be like, oh, could have got first if I'd not. And it was just that weird thing where you've been out and like smashed this like amazing effort on your bike, and then you're a little bit disheartened because you've not. Don't get me wrong, I was as lit up as anyone for racing, but it was like just as I started to boil off that like fire for it, where I was like that I'd see that as like a something I'd noticed where it's maybe that's what you maybe get a bit tired of like that mindset, like oh, I've got every little,
yeah.
and then you start riding like doing what we were doing and just focusing more on filming and trips, and it weren't about going fast, set up lines or walking every stage or raw because that's another thing that I felt like enduro changed loads where it got so big and competitive that people had to like walk every stage or like helmet camera every run and be like studying it. It was never really about that for me. It was more about showing up and sort of having that like semi-blind aspect, and it was like a 10-12 minute journey into yourself. Like how much can you like keep going? And when it got to more like 3 minute stages and more concentrated, it started to reflect that same issue as downhill where you had to be like inch perfect for every everything, because gaps had been tightened up so much. Which then put me onto like adventure racing for a little bit. I had a really lucky string of them where I got to, because they're not cheap, you know. I got backed by people I rode for to send me out to them, and that was like, these are really, really good.
Is that like the multi-day sort of like Transmadeira type trip?
Yeah, Transmadeira did that one. Did a couple of Andes Pacificos. Did Transcascadia. They're all like 4 or 5 day races where you like camping, and
Yeah.
it's not really about the results. That you're still going and checking your result at end, and you're getting your little receipt, and you're like comparing it next to everyone. But it's not like, it's just not quite that same.
Right.
And you're like meeting people you never met before, and rather than, you're traveling around and you're seeded start list, you're more just like hanging out with people who may, it don't matter about whether they're an elite sponsored pro. There might be someone who owns a bike shop from, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? But you just end up having these like really nice uh social experiences alongside racing as well.
Yeah. 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 Do you know what? I've still never done one of those. It's always something I would have liked to do, and I guess there's still time. But yeah, I've never done one of them, and I must try and do one at some
There's
point.
definitely time. I think you could enjoy that any period of your life.
Yeah.
Especially if you've got a couple of mates who you want to go with, and even you could rock up on your own, really. But like, if you've got a few mates who are keen for it,
Yeah.
I think that's what I'm going to try and do one. I've got a few mates who aren't sponsored, right? They're just, the weekend warriors at best. Like my mate James, he's a painter. He rides his bike about 3-4 times a year.
Right. But
He wants to do Andes Pacifico, and I'm like, yeah, I'll do it with you, because it's that sort of thing where you can go. It's about the experience rather than I gotta rock up with, get every second you can, and
yeah.
yeah, it's mad.
Yeah. Oh, man. Well, I'd just like to take a minute to thank this week's podcast sponsor. Action Sports Marketing is a freelance marketing company aimed at providing flexible marketing solutions for brands and businesses in the mountain bike and extreme sports industry. Services can include social media management, email marketing, paid advertising, graphic design, events management, consultancy, content creation, ambassador and athlete management, and more. Packages are completely flexible and can start from as little as just 3 hours per week. Josh, its owner, has spent years working in the action sports industry for brands like Monraker Bikes, Pivot Cycles, Head Skis, and Kramer Motorcycles, as well as living a life immersed in the world and culture of extreme sports. Find your tribe and grow your brand in 2025. Head over to actionsportsmarketing.co.uk and get in touch using the contact or email actionsportsmarketingco@gmail.com to find out more. Thanks very much. Cheers. Tell us a little bit about, obviously, because Josh has been, Bryceland's been quite a big part of your career and your friend. So tell us a little bit how you met him and how that sort of friendship sort of went.
So that again was through Peter. I remember Josh showing, they were on way to, might have been Fort William. Josh was first year junior, and they stopped at my house because you had to like drive up and out of his past our drive,
Yeah.
and like got to know him there, and then just say all right and get to know each other, acquainted. But then it were Warncliffe Weekender, and it was Sambi as well. They were both there, and they were first year juniors, because they just passed. Rat had just passed his driving test and drove over, and we had it. And I was probably like 13 then, and got on beer, had a couple of beers with him, and got a bit loose. And
Is that where the name comes from?
no, the name come from around that time. I think Baz called me Loose Soul. We were track walking, and I had some Nike 6.0s, which I love, but Soul were hanging off of one of them, it like flapping about, and it just stuck from there. Funny you asked that, actually, because that's, yeah. and it just stuck, and then just went to It's just been there ever since. It's more people call me Loose than Josh.
Yeah,
You know, like if someone calls me Josh now, I'm like, "Oh, I'm in trouble" or something like that. It's just funny how names stick in it.
yeah, yeah,
But yeah, just from then on, like once I passed my driving test and could travel over at Pennines to like their side, just I'd go and hang out on weekends and like always call Josh Big Brother. We'd get mistaken for like, people think we were brothers,
yeah,
and then like just it was just like that's how it felt though. Like taught me generosity, to be honest. Like I've always been shown generosity like through Steve again, and but Josh would like do these like acts where I'd be like, "What do you mean you're gonna like?" I think he gave me a grand cash once to help me out on my race. And I'm like, "What do you mean you're giving me like?" What have I got to do? And he's like, nothing. Like, I just want to help you out. And I'd be like, and that just for a bit, I'd like just set me back. I was like, as if he's like done that to help me out, and could see that taught me like that weren't him doing that to try and get anything other than just that bit of satisfaction of being able to help someone, and like definitely taught me loads through life. Not just that, just a massive inspirational
yeah,
figure and a real one for sure.
oh,
And
absolutely.
just helped me out in many aspects of life. And we've had so many good bloody memories along the way as well. Like
Yeah,
being able to ride on Santa Cruz together as like on professional lineup. And then obviously he moved on to Cannondale, and yeah, just all's been always good a good time, a good. Just smiling, just it's all happening at once in my head right now. I'm trying to think what
well, I
sticks
mean,
out.
you've had some amazing friends and obviously role models to kind of steer you in the right direction, as you know, not just with your riding ability and your riding skills, but just in life in general. Steve, Josh, Sambo, they're all super good dudes, aren't they? So it's
Yeah,
that's brilliant.
yeah, for sure. Like all like amazing in their own way, and definitely when we formed 50 to 1, then it's like um just a right combination of like enthusiasm and like that definitely like I sort of saw my as I were making them videos and we were going on trips and putting effort into documenting the crew. Definitely saw like my riding career sort of elevate alongside the what's it called, the reach that 50 to 1 were gaining. So I didn't never wanted to let off that boil. Just seeing the hype grow.
And how did the for people that don't know, how did sort of 50 to 1, and what was it originally? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so we started making some teas in 2014, maybe even end of 13. With like all hashtag when hashtags were like obviously there's still a thing now, but it was like hashtag all the lads, and we were like tie dyeing these tees and selling them at like races and stuff like that. I think we made some mud guards as well, but just started a brand really, and then after a little bit of reflection, we were like it's a bit corny really. All the lads have got to swap it up a bit, and then 50 to 1 came about, and then just
Why,
enjoyed making products.
why did you
Going
choose 50 to 1?
Well,
Name.
that was Sam and Josh had a night on boat, I think, and they'd got been on about oil to petrol ratio and like and maybe they'd been on gin and tonics, and it was like gin to tonic ratio or something like that. So it just they came with that, and they were like, "Yeah, mint, love it." So it just went from there. But just we enjoyed making things and going through that. It was very basic at that point, like finding a supplier and knocking some scribbling some designs up and stuff like that, compared to what it is now, where it's like a full on. It's a it's a brand now, no doubt. Like
Oh yeah, it's
it's
cool, lad. And who does all the from the start to now, who does all the designs and comes up with the concepts for the different jerseys and products you do?
So it's been different a long way, but we had a lad called Ralph. It's Sammy's bro, but he's no longer with us anymore, working for us. Sounds like he passed away. he's he's not. So we've gone through like a bit of a remodel, literally just like that's going back to why I've been so busy. We had him working for us full time, out of this unit that we'd renovated as a crew in 2020. And then the unit we were in that we renovated, we found out we got to move out of.
Right.
So the new spot we're into, the guy who owns that, he's handling the parcels, like, so all the stock's now on these shelves, and like we're renting just some shelves in a unit, and the orders go into him, he packs and posts them. So the work sort of load for Ralph had trickled down, so he's ended up having to move on to get something a bit more solid. Because they weren't, but he was doing a lot of designs. So I'm moving back into doing that again, and it's a bit of everything really. I got like an iPad and draw stuff up, and I've always enjoyed that as well. Design side, but it's always been within the crew, never really branch.
Yeah.
Had like a
Right.
pro designer or anything like that. It's just been like have some fun with the graphic side, and yeah, just it's just fun. That's what, try and keep it like fun and make things you want to wear and use yourself. So I'm just finishing range for this summer now. I've been on that like last 3 4 days solid
Cool.
because it's 10-year anniversary as well. So trying to do like some special bits. Got like a couple football shirts getting made.
Brilliant.
Yeah, trying to get that boxed off before the year kicks off properly. Really.
And what, from coming up with a design like now, like some new jerseys and stuff, then where do you get them all made at the same place, or do you use different vendors and stuff to get stuff made?
No, it's all different. Got loads of different suppliers and factories and stuff like that now. Which again, like, it's a job. Like, I'm like yesterday, just for example, emailing two different suppliers. They're like, you're having to make like a big sort of PDF for like instructions for like production, and it's taught me loads about uh, well, just everything, all walks of creating with these factories. You know what I mean? You've got to create a presentation and like show all like fabrics you want, and design, and like give it someone to then dissect and make, um, and then make the designs that are like just little things. It's just that you don't think about, but just taught me loads, and it definitely helps transfer over to like other sides of life. Just like maybe even just confidence wise, you think to yourself like, no, wait, I remember when we first started making our own kit. Well, just before that, someone said to us like, "Oh, you should start making your own kit." And I remember thinking like, "No, that's the job that no way we could achieve." It's one thing like printing some logos on some tees, but like making some stuff from scratch. And then here we are now, like got a bunch of like custom garments and making hats from scratch. Like
Yeah, it's cool.
changing stitching and all that. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's good fun.
Yeah, no, it's mega, and you guys sent me some stuff. I love it. It's definitely up my cup of tea. All the stuff that you make, it's super cool. And I spoke to Josh Bryceland a few weeks ago, and just recently got back into riding motorbikes a bit, just
Yeah.
changed up, and it seems like the motorbike enduro scene is huge now. I
Mm,
I did it about 10 years ago. Just did it for a couple of seasons, did a few races and got to know some people and really enjoyed it. And then I just got too busy with my job running the team to focus on it, and kind of left it for 10 years and kind of just got back into it now. I always ride two strokes, and two stroke for enduro is huge. More people have a two stroke than a four stroke, and I was
yeah.
into him like, you know, your brand is absolutely perfect for that. You know, to diverse into motorbiking. You know, I'm sure there'd be so many people that love two strokes that would be, you know, buzzing to have a 50 to 1 jersey.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's like one. Like I'll see 50-1 pop up in randomest places. Like aside from anyone who's even into bikes, never mind like motorbikes, which is what 50 like people who know about two stroke it resonate with. But it's crazy how it's like and sort of became a model in my head where if you can make something which people want to rep who don't even know what it's about, then you're onto something there. So tried to definitely go with that. Like, let's make this something that people would rep in pub or
Yeah,
someone. And you just I just see it out in wild. Even sometimes people don't even recognize me. You know what I mean? I'll see someone in and out, or maybe even at a festival, and just see like a 50-1 out bobbing around. And you're like, it's crazy how
yeah, it's a
where
cool
it reaches to.
logo. You know, I like it, just that even if I didn't know you guys or wasn't into motorbikes or anything, just the logo's cool and it big numbers kind of relate to old school racing and it's just
Yeah,
logo in it.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
It's a great brand and yeah, I love seeing what you're coming out with. I was
Cheers.
at Dovey last week, took my little lad there, and you know, we were in the uplift queue, and there was a guy next to us with you know, the jersey he did for Josh for Hardline.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he had one of those, and you know, I was hanging out with Dan Atherton, who's always, you know, really good to us when we go there, and I had my 50 to 1 jersey on, and he just, you know, Dan's had all kinds of stuff over the years, and he was like, oh, it's really cool that stuff in it. So it's
Mega.
the
Yeah, yeah. A few of Duffy boys like Jim and Dennis, they wear the stuff. It's a good few lads repping down there, which is nice. Just nice that people are wanting to rep it and get on board.
doing a
Try and
good.
not force it down people's throats and make if they want to run it, they can run it. And yeah, it's
Yeah.
nice to just have people wanting to fly the flag, so to speak.
Oh, it's great. You should be really proud of yourselves for doing all that.
So it's like sometimes it's important to like pull your head out, stand and like realize how far you've come in it. Because like again, just working from this desk, like it's hard to notice what you spend all this time like designing stuff and ordering stuff, and it goes out or making videos, and then like I see, for example, I made loads of films now. We all get over 100,000 views, and it's easy to like just see that as a number on the screen. But when I like think about how many people that is, it's easy to get complacent,
Yeah.
especially in this day and age where it's all views and likes and rah rah rah. Like made that on my computer in my bedroom, and that's
Yeah.
it's
Pretty cool, isn't it?
yeah, and it's that what like refreshes me, when you sometimes like don't know for whatever reason getting a little bit bogged down or you're like what am I doing what am I doing
Yeah.
and it's them things that like relight the fire.
Yeah, definitely, mate. Definitely. Um, well, tell me a little bit about, you know, obviously you started off with the downhill racing, you know, riding and into the enduro, and then how did you get into doing all the tricks and the, you know, the stuff that you've done in the last recent years? How did that come about? And is that something you were always interested in? It seems like, you know, to me, I've always been more into just riding and racing. Even as a kid, I always, you know, raced BMX, loved jumping and stuff, but I was never bothered about tricks and stuff other than the odd cheeky no footer and stuff like that.
X
Um,
ups.
I barely can even do an X up, to be honest. Never my strong point doing tricks, but um, you know, one thing that resonates with me is I don't think I don't think I've got the patience to learn something like what it must take. But I remember coming to Steve's house when he had a little dirt jump jam when he'd made that track in his garden. I don't
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
like 8 or 9 years ago. I'm not sure how long ago it was. And obviously, I knew you at at that point, and you were already doing loads of cool stuff in your videos. But I remember you were trying to do this trick on us and on some. I think it was an old track off a like digger or something.
Oh yeah, 180 bar spin out of that, like an in and out. I remember that.
Which is super impressive, but the amount of effort you and time you put into that to get it right, how do you do that? That's one thing I'd like try that and fall off 3 times. That stop that. I'm not doing that anymore. Never gave up till you could do it. And is that like how much all the cool tricks you do on your videos? How long does it take you to land all these things and to learn them?
Sometimes sometimes some of the clips in my films have been like 3 day missions. But like I've always been into BMX. I've always been into skateboarding. And like always like right, it definitely as them aside from the race, we'd always go out for a little roll and try daft stuff, and it were never like as put a lot of hours into point I'm at now. It were never that tech back then, but we always just like little side hits or whatever. We'd always stop a ride to like, oh, that's like a quarter there, or
Yeah.
um. But it was when we started making the films. I think Wheel Love was the first. We'd done a couple before that, but Wheel Love was like the first like rider section, sort of structured like a BMX film or a skateboard film, where it was like one eclipse. It was like going out street riding. You'd find something in woods and you'd be like, oh, I can do that. Right, it's there, ready to go. Or a little bit of scraping out, something like that. And that seemed to like resonate with people where it was like, people realize like, oh, I ain't got to go and like ride all this.
Yeah.
It's all out there. It's all just like your perspective. Like you got to go and look for it. But especially in like places with like Warney been on our back doorstep where you have all these cool big rock slabs that you could do something on. And
Yeah.
yeah, just going back to the trick side, it just I've always enjoyed learning. I've always enjoyed like that progression feeling, and I think it just was really addictive for me, and I think that's why I'm still where I'm at now in my filming. It's like you never really there's always something new to learn. There's something another step to take. And then next time I'll make one, I'm going to be exploring even deeper and further into that. And I think that's how I've got here now. Is just through wanting to feel that, because I think that's where the good chemicals in your brain get released and stuff like that. When you've learned something new and you've got them endorphins, where you're like, oh yeah, I've done it, And that I remember learning bar spins in my dad's garage with like car sponges tucked down into my socks. I weren't ever thinking at that point I could do a 180 bar spin out of a track, but you just keep ticking off little bits, don't you? And just that one, when you do eventually land that one, that feeling, that rush, is like, it's an achievement, and it's not, yeah, it's just a really, I think that's what makes bike riding so addictive. And I'm not just saying that in terms of tricks. I'm saying that like first time you go and ride something, you look at an hill and you're like, there's no way I'm riding down that. And then you do it and you get that rush of like, oh, I've done it. And then it's on to the next thing. And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
that progression curve which keeps you hooked. And mine just became learning these sort of tricks, really. And just looking at the terrain a little bit differently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where do you get inspiration from, BMX and skateboarding and certain athletes to go and then sort of replicate that on the mountain bike, or is it more mountain bikers that you get your inspiration from to do?
No, I definitely get my inspiration back when it was BMX big time. Like Paley, I started hanging around with Paley around Wheel of Time, and we were doing a lot of BMX trips as well. Like I'd go on BMX trips with him, like street trips, street days to cities, or I went to like Barstop to help him film for his one of his BSD parts, and seeing all. I think that he taught me loads of tricks, and how to do certain stuff. Or just seeing it, I think just seeing it and being like, I want to try.
Yeah.
It's weird because mountain bikes is what I came up with. I tend to learn stuff on that first, and then, which is weird. People would be like, "Why? How can you do that on the full suspension?" And then I'd go onto my BMX and not be able to do the thing, or I would, but it'd just take a little bit longer. I could way more confidently do a hot bar spin on my mountain bike with suspension than back then. Anyway, I'm on to. I've done a lot of time doing them, so it's. But yeah, I think just especially seeing them people crossing over into mountain biking from BMX, and there's like way more similarities than people first maybe thought. And I think it's that outlook on seeing the woods as like a rideable playground rather than going out in your Lycra and going for a mountain bike ride, dude. It's like you can just go out in your shorts and t-shirt and find. Well, it's an expressionist thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
It can be whatever you want it to be as long as you're out having fun on it.
yeah,
You could do it in any way you want,
sure. Like
and that's the beauty of it.
I live in Tweed Valley now, so I've lived here coming up to 4 years, and I've never lived anywhere where there's been so much mountain biking before. So I kind of where I grew up, we rode our BMXs in the streets and in the woods and stuff, and went to the racetracks and that. But um, since I moved here, uh, my riding sort of changed. I started going out for a ride more. Like you pedal up and you do a track, and you pedal up again and you do a different track. So
Mm,
not really sessioning. Do you know what I mean? Because
yeah,
we've got so many tracks up here and so much variety to go and ride. But it is all very similar. Like there's not many jumps up here, so you kind of lose that you sort of jumping skills and confidence a little bit. But some young lads built some tight steep corners that to a lot of people they're not a big groomed massive berm that you get on a bike park. They're like a tiny tight corner that doesn't even work properly. And mate, I went up there last week when the weather was and just sessioned that little 20-second thing, and I had so much fun doing that than I have in years. Do you know what I mean? And I'm in my
yeah, yeah.
these. It doesn't flip in that buzz doing something like that just doesn't go away.
Nah, for sure. And sometimes it's that repetition of the same thing, which is where you learn more than
Then yeah,
bombing down like a 4 or 5 minute run. It's good, and you can get into the flow. But if you want to like
hone
keep
work.
re-upping and like that going back to like trying that 180 bar spin, like actually being able to do the same. Sometimes I think I'm verging on like madness because you're just like you're running back up, you're like so, but
Focus.
that's where you can feel them little 1% and start like I think that's why obviously people always talk about the UK scene and why how can they produce so many good riders when there's not even any big hills, but I think that's why everyone does
Yeah,
because you've got that like you have to focus on these five ruts
yeah.
and hit them as hard as you can rather than go and get a chairlift up and cruise down some bike park. Well, that's like Craig. That's how I met Craig Evans. I was again like 13, 14, and we'd just go in Warncliffe and Billy Matthews as well. We'd all just be pushing up downhill bikes and riding like four ruts. Um, but you can just see how like it just makes you focus.
That's
And
all
it's so flipping fun as well. Like
yeah.
you're all there shouting at each other, and like someone takes it too far, and has like a mad moment or crashes, and it's like it's fun. It's like that. It's like inclusive. It's like an inclusive side to it where it's like sessioning at a skate park, or
Yeah, yeah.
you're not just bombing in a train and trying to like smoke each other. It's like oh, he's gone hard, I'm gonna go hard. And I think it's that what just appeals to people
Yeah,
with riding.
definitely. And you know, obviously, the industry's changing all the time, and the industry for sales and stuff has been pretty hard since COVID, because everyone knows that story of the boom of COVID and everything, and then the
Mm-hmm.
overstock. But seems like where I live now, you see more and more e-bikes. Like it seems like e-bikes are really taking off, and I can understand. You get into mountain biking, you're not maybe the fittest you need to be to pedal up 300 meters and do a run and pedal back up again. Obviously, depending where you live, and they are super fun e-bikes. I love them, but
Yeah.
where do for what we've just been talking about, which is the kids and just going in the woods and making jumps and riding features that they've got in their local spots, that there's tons of people that don't live in the hills and the mountains. Where do you see the bike design and the perfect sort of ideal bike for the kids to get into this amazing sport? What's your view on that?
Yeah, it's a good question actually. I've actually found myself in a position now with no frame sponsor, and I've been like, what am I going to do? And I had like a few chats with brands, but nothing formulated. And I've ended up speaking to a guy who's going to make me two frames, weld me up two frames out of steel. And I'm not like saying that I'm going to start a bike brand, but I'm just using this sort of like,
Another learning curve, and
yeah, and just using this position right now. It definitely got me down. I was like, it's hard not to feel some kind of failure
yeah,
in, you know
100%.
what I mean? But obviously, it's just where everything's at. It can't, there's no one's got money to spend, so that's the be all and end all. Really, they're not going to go signing riders when they've not got money to. It just makes sense. But for me, I was like, how can I keep my? And I'm not saying I'm not current because I've not got a frame sponsor. That's ridiculous, But just in terms of how I felt, I was like, I need a story to tell. I've
Yeah,
got a story to tell, I've got that, but I want to get something fresh. People want to see fresh new things, and I feel like I've got an opportunity here to flip it on its head, sort of thing. I could have carried on being negged out about it, but I thought, now let's try and make something, a story out of this. So yeah, hit up Ted James, the guy down south who builds frames out of steel, mainly like BMXs and hardtails, but Nick Larson put me in touch with him. So I hit him up with my ideas about like these two frames, and long-winded reply to you about the bikes, but I wanted to make like a budget. Basically, all the play bikes I've had the past few years have all been like on the market for like 6, 7 Gs, and they're like carbon, the carbon, really amazing performance mountain bikes. But what I'm doing is going out, I'm like taking front brake off and single speeding them, and then going and doing like 360s off trees and stuff. That's all well and good because I'm getting it for free. But is someone expected to go and spend 6, 7, 8 grand on a bike and then throw it about like a BMX? Like, probably not. And I've always like, well, firstly seen the bikes do well when brands do like a budget, low cost, like alley frame or whatever. So I just thought I want to just try and make a play bike which is not built around being a mountain bike first to go and be like pedaled up hills and all that. I want to build something that's actually built to be like a woodland BMX, basically.
yeah, yeah,
And again, I'm not saying that I'm doing that to sell them. I'm just doing it to like explore that idea and create something that no one's really doing at the minute. But yeah, good. I think on a broader scale though, like it would be nice to see more budget frames available to, as I think then you'd see sales picking up. Not everyone can go out and buy 5, 6 grand bikes. and want to go and slap them about. It's
It's
yeah,
a difficult one because the retail pricing on not just frames but the parts and everything. By the time especially these days, even the people get stuff made in the far east predominantly because it's cheaper labor costs and the bikes are cheaper, and everything
mm.
comes from over there. But by the time it comes over, you get it here with shipping and all the bigger tariffs and taxes and import duties and everything. The bikes are just too expensive, aren't they? Like
Yeah.
I've just got, I have a conversation with, lots of ex BMXs that are like, why isn't BMX as good as it was in the 80s and stuff like that? And, you know, there's a few reasons, but there's so much choice nowadays for kids. Like, when I was growing up, it was literally a BMX or a motorbike or a racer. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
There was choppers and stuff like that. But if you really wanted to get after it and, go jumping and stuff like that, you needed a BMX. And BMXs were the only real bike to get if you weren't allowed to have a motocross bike. So now there's so much choice, and there's so much cool riding to see online. But my son's 13 coming up to 14, and he's lucky because I've got bikes that he can ride that have kept for him and stuff. But he's got loads of mates from school, and they want to do it now because he's doing it, and they've got a great little crew now that they're all going out riding. But some of his mates want to do it, and there's no way they can afford to do it.
Mm.
It needs to be bikes that are about £1,000, and it just seems impossible to have a good quality bike that they can go and do the jumps and stuff in the woods on a mountain bike, and it's going to last more than a few weeks. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. But even if they did muster up the money to buy one, then it might just go and snap a mech hanger off straight away, and then you're stuck with a broken bike, aren't you? It's definitely tricky. I think at the end of the day, it is just one of them sports that unfortunately you need a little bit of money to get into it. Like motocross, obviously not as extreme as that, but if you wanted to race, then your bike's costing as much as a crosser these days, isn't it? If you going out for a fresh downhill setup or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think there's got to be like good quality second-hand bikes at this point with there being so much out there. I think maybe that's why BMXs last so long, don't they? Like I got a new one in 2019, and it's still minus a couple creaks and crack like noises. It's still mint, like, and that's like 6 years down the line. They just once you've got one, it's sort of a bike for life unless you're going really hard on them.
Definitely,
So
definitely.
yeah, I don't really know how it would be achieved. Like you say, parts again. Add one thing getting a cheap frame, but then adding all parts on top of that, and then like import duties and stuff like that. It's just, I think
Yeah,
that's why it's tough for these bigger brands, isn't it?
yeah,
Because they've got so much percentages and middlemen and distributors and different slices to make that it ends up being
to,
financially impossible to make them like afford an affordable price,
yeah,
especially with numbers that they have to get made. Like like molds. Like even I remember someone saying like even though Ali's cheap, it's still not as cheap to produce as you think. You have to be doing big numbers and then get yeah. So it's a
yeah.
tricky one for sure. Um,
It is, and get what you just mentioned about making your frames. That's something that I've been wanting, thought about, doing for many years, and spoke to many people about it. So I'm super excited to see what you come up with. But
yeah, man, it'll be like it's going to be single speed, like pivot around the BB, so you don't need a chain tensioner or anything like that. Like super simple. But then I'm doing like a 160 gearbox belt drive as
wow,
well, which is going to be it's going to be a heavy boy for sure. But going back to e-bikes, like I've been riding e-bikes for a good few years now, and like I ride them harder than
yeah,
like the way I can push on my e-bike and the weight. it doesn't affect it at all. In fact, it maybe rises. It feels mint to like really put. It feels like he's got this forward momentum. So I'm excited to try this, even though I know it's going to be heavy. You know, I'm not out trying to save grams here and there. And the belt drive does feel a little bit more draggy. But again, not out for these
Yeah.
little margins. I want to make something which lasts, and I'm just experimenting. I
Cool.
think is what's exciting for me, and then I want to just document the whole process.
Brilliant.
See how we get on.
Oh, that's cool. Look forward to seeing that then.
Yeah, man.
And so what, I could go on chatting about all this stuff for forever. Won't keep you all day, but so at the moment you got 50 to 1 business going, you're doing those bikes. What's the rest of the year looking for you? What projects and trips and stuff have you got going on this year?
So I want to get this film finished off. Probably by end of summer. I've got a couple of backyard battles I'm invited to, so I've got a few trips. There's some stuff at Whistler, like some pretty exciting stuff, which will be like a big multi-brand collaboration thing, which Hector at Bicycle Nightmares is running. And then last year did like a big mute because I've been DJing. We did like a music event there where a lot of like the mountain bike music, like Lemoyne, did a performance. Me and Ollie from Fast as Fuck did a DJ set. Cam McCall jumped on and played with Lemoyne. Dylan Siggers' band warm like started the night. It was like proper cool actually. We ran this place out and energy was like it was mega. People crowd surfing and we ran. It was felt good. It was so we're gonna do another one of them. Um, and then
When's
aside
that
from
going to
all
be?
that, say again, sorry.
What's that going to be?
It's at Crankworks in Whistler, probably like on the Wednesday or Thursday.
Wicked.
Um, and then Josh's Josh's race is the weekend before that, the Bolly Skyline.
Yeah.
So I'll do that, then fly straight out to do that Whistler stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and then I want to sort of once all them trips are out of the way, I want to focus on doing like a 50 to 1 jam. Did a couple, well, did quite a few last year. Want to do maybe not as many, but something that's a bit more bigger, like a 10-year celebration jam.
Cool.
And then finish year with like a road trip, like a 50 to 1 10-year celebration road trip, and film it sort of like a road falls, King of the Road sort of inspiration for another film. So I want to put out 2 big films this year, which is why it's nice that we're getting so stuck in early on.
Yeah.
Because last year I didn't do a 50 to 1 like full film. I did my own film called Hijinks, which I like made the music for and like built a load of stuff for it. And
Mint.
it, yeah, it's like wanted to focus on the art side really. But then creatively that gave me a nice rest to come in swinging this year for like this video straight away. Because
Cool.
like the one I did before that was an hour long, and it does burn you, man. Like editing an hour long video, which is compressed into like tiny little, every little cut's like every second, and that was a big job. So it was nice to have a year off that. But now I'm bang up for. It's about 2 months ago. I watched a few of the full films I've done, and I was like, can't believe I made these. Like you're just looking through, and it fired me up, and the it's long enough now to watch them and not see every little imperfection as the person who edited them, to just enjoy it as
Yeah.
a full picture and just feel the crew energy,
Yeah.
which is obviously what people feel and get and enjoy, and that's probably why they do so well and people like watching them. Is because it lives that like session woods
Yeah.
uh vibes which people love.
Yeah. It's yeah, mega. So
Yeah,
who
what's on the recipe really? What's on the menu? I mean,
a lot going on then, mate. Don't know how you cook.
yeah, yeah, lots to crack on with, but feeling good, feeling in a good headspace for it all. Yeah, through winter's dark depressions and
A
seeing it
lot.
all. Yeah, feeling good for it.
Good stuff. And so who will just like who's the main sort of crew that you'll be, you'll have in the 50 to 1 video then for riders?
It's whoever wants to get involved and get in on sessions. I've never really be like, you can't get in on this, or it's always just being a natural, go like Josh might hit me up and go, yeah, I want to go get this spot on Tuesday, so I'm like, yeah, I'm there.
Yeah.
And then there's a few young lads. Um, that's all. 50's always had, it's had us lot who start, but now there's like 3 or 4 generations.
It's
So then there's this new generation now, the boys coming through who are like 17, 16, 17, 18, who just in like a young lad called Luke Clayton, who's just every time he rides, he's learning something new. Like other day, um, he's been doing loads of flips, and I was like, loads of flip tricks. He'd just done like a 360 tail whip, and I was like, I want to see a flip crank flip, and then in 2 days he's like sent me a video doing a flip crank flip,
unreal.
just learning all the time. But it's just inspiring though as well. Like when you go out and you see him doing that, you're like, right, what have I got? What am I bringing to this? It's it's always nice to have the youngins around, as
Yeah.
I'm sure it is for them having us around. It just works. No one's ever like, oh, you can't come ride with us, you little
Yeah.
whippersnapper, or it's like, yeah. So yeah, so far I've got like Dave, Sammy, Max, Josh, Luke. It's probably like 6 sections on the build,
Cool.
but again, there's going to be probably like eight riders in it, and then, well, 8 rider sections, and then whoever else. I usually do like a random section where everyone's in one.
Okay.
No plan, really. There is no plan. It's just I tend to just stack until get to a point where I'm ready to start laying it out in the editing software, and
Cool.
then just start playing about and just see how it comes together. But with this one being like a 10-year anniversary celebration, as I said at the start, I've got all my hard drives here. I'm gonna do like a intro flashback montage thing where it'll just be
All the years.
every yeah, like nostalgia. Um, you don't even see like when I think back, like it don't. I'm sure you can relate to this, Paige, but like 10 years has gone by so rapid. It doesn't even feel like 10 years. It just
A bit
like
scary.
yeah, yeah, literally. I'm looking through the same eyes and I'm the same person. But then I look in the mirror and I'm like, yeah, I'm definitely 10 years older than them first clips I looked at. But I think if your energy and your personas, that never changes, does it? Like,
No, it's,
yeah,
and it seems to get faster and faster, and yeah, it's all right when you're still at your age, but when you get to my age, you start thinking, "Holy shit, I need to slow this down now." How do I slow
yeah.
it down?
I
But
think it's like a perception thing in it because when you're 10 years old and you've done 1 year of your life, that's the 10th
yeah,
of your life, and it seems like a year seems, it's only 1/10. But then when you're like 30,
yeah.
a year's it's more, and as you're getting older, the years are getting less relative, aren't they? So
But oh, cool, man. Well, um, yeah, I look forward to seeing all that, and just keep doing what you're doing because you're doing an awesome job, and it's so it's great content to watch and to get involved in, and it's brilliant what you and all the guys are doing. So yeah, keep on with it, mate. Don't
yeah, cheers, appreciate the love, man. Cheers for having me on,
no
and it's been
look.
nice to see you and chat. Forgot
Yeah,
we were even podcasting, to be honest. Just been chatting, haven't we?
that's it. That's all it is. It's just a chat. So
Yeah, yeah.
well, on the road trip, if you boys ever come up this way, let me know, and we'll.
No, it's going to be a Scottish one. That was the plan. I want to go. I want to go up north. So yeah, I'll definitely let you know.
No worries. All right, mate. Well, thanks again, and I'll hopefully catch up with you soon. And good luck with the bikes and everything else. And I'll look forward to having a ride with you boys when you come up.
Sounds good. Cheers, PJ.
No worries. Well, I hope everyone enjoyed that as much as I did. What a great guy Josh is, and it's super inspirational seeing all the different things he's done and all the different skills he brings to the biking community and industry. So yeah, mega really enjoyed that. Please like, subscribe, and comment on the channel. And if you're feeling generous, buy us a coffee. That really helps what we're doing. And thanks very much. And see you next time. Cheers.